Yes, for sure. Okay, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen for Monday, December 2nd to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Our first order of business is to receive a presentation regarding exemptions for solar panel installations from our town tax assessor, Tony Homicki. Hi, Tony.
Tony, give us the staff. Thank you.
So I'm here looking for a little bit of direction, give you some comments, some oversight in regards to solar energy, solar panels that we've had in town, and I've given you a copy of Section 1281 of the General Statutes with highlights with Section 56 and 57. And what has triggered all this is basically the commercial installations of a handful of solar energy and solar panels that we've had in town. Since 2008, we have had 67 total installation of solar panels, of which 54 were residential and 13 were commercial. Of the commercial, 6 are town-owned or leased, and 7 are private. My observation are really just to see if we have a choice to have a local enabling legislation for a local option to exempt these solar panels. Technically now we've been receiving applications for exemption, but we have nothing to exempt on residential properties because in essence, over my 40-year career and the 15 years as your assessor, we haven't added value to a residential home because they have solar installations. We've talked extensively to most of the brokers and agents in town, and we have felt through, not just myself, but with the technicians that we've used, with the revaluation firms over the last 3 revals, we haven't seen that incremental difference to add value to residential properties. So that's a little bit separate and different than the commercial purposes. The commercial solar panels, and I told Kate that I would try to reconcile as much detail as I could as we're approaching this grand list for October 1 of 19. It's basically 7 commercial installations, several on Thorndale, Post Road, the mini dealership. Whole Foods has one, and we go back to Weburn, where in 2008 there was over $300,000 installation. That's one of the oldest that we have on a commercial property, or at least a non-residential property. Overall, it's an application process that's been coming to my office for all of the 15 years. We have anywhere from 12 to 20 property leasing companies that submit the leasing exchange between the residential homeowner and themselves. The leases could be anywhere from 10 to 30-year leases. To complicate it further, some of these are bundled. We might have companies called Solar Source, I think it is, out of California, for example. They might have 20 or 30 residential homes under one lease arrangement. It gets a little more complicated, but the option by these statutes allow us to exempt this application process. They'd still have to file with my office, but it is, again, something that we're not adding value to anyway, and it's not unusual. I've been very active with the Fairfield County Assessors and the Connecticut Assessors Association, and most assessors are not adding value to residential properties. The commercial property declarations are a little bit different because as business personal property, we can identify through the building department exactly when these installations occurred and for what dollar amount. Do they add market value to some of the properties? As business personal property, they do. But it really comes down to the 7 properties with a depreciable asset using the assessment ratio. Looking at 16 to 17 mills, it's about $25,000 a year in revenue that we would be losing if we exempted and endorsed the concept of not taxing or assessing commercial solar panels. The ones owned by the town at one time could have been assessed by the local assessor, but statutes were changed just 3 to 4 years ago on leased equipment and leased arrangements between a municipality and a private entity. So I'm just here to look for some direction to see if you'd consider if I do a little more analysis, regional analysis comparing other towns. I don't think it's a big revenue producing item. It's labor intensive because of anywhere from 30 to 50 applications that we're getting. We have to tell them that we're not valuing anything, therefore we're not assessing, therefore we don't grant you an exemption. But I think it's worthy of review, and if we want to endorse the green energy concept and solar panel, solar energy, these are the two options. 1281, section 57 would be for residential property, and 1256 would be something that would have to be reviewed for commercial property as a local ordinance, I guess. Kate, is that what it would be called? And request for exemption status, it would be something I'd like to be working on in the next 30 to 60 days, and applicable for the 10-1-19 grand list, which I sign off on in January of 2020.
May I ask a question?
Yeah, of course.
Yep.
Are many of the systems leased? I mean, most of the private systems that I would believe would be owned,
A
correct?
lot of them are owned, but there are bundled systems that are leased, and they have anywhere from 5 to 20-year leases.
Right.
Buyers of a property would have to absorb those.
Right.
It's a sensitive issue in some towns. I haven't seen it approached to me at all, other than people requesting that if it is exempt. We have a handful of geothermal installations. Those also could apply to this. But again, we haven't added value to those. It's a heating system that's in place, and the residential ones, in essence, we're not really sure what the effective life is on some of those. It's a statewide discussion, and it's been challenged, in fact, by a handful of communities in the courts, because some assessors are aggressively assessing and taxing these solar panels. We just haven't seen that change in value, the complementary value for any residential properties here in Darien.
So if you had a house that was considered to be green or LEED certified that included solar technology or geothermal technology, you're saying that doesn't actually increase the value of a home?
According to the brokers, real estate agents that we've worked with a handful of properties that are true green properties, market value is still market value. We still have to have a conventional or a solar heating system. Will somebody pay 20, 30% more because it's truly a green property? They might pay 5 or 7% more. It might be on the market instead of 4 months. It might sell in 3 months. I haven't seen a really unique property that has had added value that we haven't been able to define the value and defend the value with an excessive amount of complement because of the solar status.
I guess I'd like to see a bit more analysis as well, because folks and commercial and residential property owners put these on their properties so that they can reap the benefit of lower utility costs. So they're receiving a benefit in that way. I have a little bit of a hard time giving a tax break for something that we don't already use it to determine a higher value on a parcel of land. So I'd need a bit more analysis, Tony, to further
I
this.
just wanted to see if I could pursue this further and get something back to you in the next 30 days or so.
Questions for Tony to help guide his analysis?
The issue with the commercial properties is a little more refined in that we did have several office buildings that had some significant electric utility usage. Most of those have been modified or retrofit since then, but at one time we were in court where, because the electricity was so high, they couldn't trickle that down in a triple net lease arrangement to the tenants, and some of these buildings were vacant for a little while. I don't think we have any left now, but that issue is something I just want to mention to you, and reason for us not to grant commercial property exemptions. Might be a little more detail I can get you that. Again, that would be separate from the taxable business personal property, from the real estate value methodology that comes into on an income approach.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's sort of a global 30-second observation
Sure.
on commercial valuation.
Yeah, I'd also like to be mindful of what the perhaps unintended consequences would be for this. Where do you then stop? What other kinds of green amenities would a property owner come to you and want to be exempt for?
Good. I have a couple ideas on that I've started to prepare.
Okay.
That's all.
Other questions for Tony?
No,
Comments?
it's I think I would be interested to know how many of the commercial systems are owned. We don't normally tax items that are not owned, right? I mean, the tax is like a property tax, but if they don't own the systems, I mean, they are reaping the benefit
If they are
from it.
leased, we will be assessing and taxing the commercial property ones. They typically will add
Right.
value. And the leasing companies are submitting personal property declaration, giving me those values.
Right.
They might be requesting a 3 to 5 year life or a 10 and 20 year life, depending on the type of installation. But there are complementary values and increase and change of assessments for some of the
Right.
commercial properties. But with the 4 to 5 that we have now, it's less than a $25,000 tax revenue loss that we would have if I was going to add those to this coming year's grand list.
Right.
I'd be curious also to know, again, the surrounding communities, what do we see happening elsewhere?
I'll
Would
do
be
a
helpful.
survey for Fairfield County. I'm very
Perfect.
active with the organization.
Thank you.
Good.
I like the idea of creating some kind of incentives for people to
We'd like people to go green.
think
Do
green.
it.
So thank you for starting the conversation about that.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Tony. Okay, next is an update on the Oxridge Elementary School Building Committee work from Kip Coons.
Okay. In May, we had 3 architectural firms which are finalists, and we gave each one a series of questions and design issues to resolve and answer. And we asked them to, when they give us the design answer, to give us also rough cost estimates. The range of solutions had prices of $55 to $60 million before town costs. Therefore, when we went to the RTM in June, we said we think the number is going to be around 63 for a building that hasn't even been designed. So we started the process after we hired SLAM. We had a lot of people working with us, including the ex officio members, including the superintendent, the principal of the school as well, and the facilities director. So after SLAM was hired, we went into first the conceptual and programming phase, designing classroom sizes based on the ed specs. We then worked into the siting on the project. Do we want to build where the existing building was, or do we want to build on a different site on the property, an empty site? Those were issues of phasing and cost issues. We got through that. We got into what we call schematic design, which is trying to develop the exterior of the building and placing the various program classrooms and spaces inside. And then we got an estimate. Well, the estimate came back from the 2 different people, which was the architect and the construction manager, way higher than what we went to the RTM with. So I said, guys, you've got to reconcile your numbers, and we've got to find a way of bringing this back into line. So while they were reconciling their numbers, we talked about various things that could be done, but most of those things, well, I should say some of those things would really involve strictly the Board of Education making changes to some of the ed specs, particularly classroom sizes, and some of the spaces that were designed in. Well, they came back with a reconciled cost, and that was $73.7 million, with still $10.7 million above our budget, 17% of our budget. And so they also proposed to look at a number of things that they call cost management, which they're looking at right now. A group of us went over and talked with Dr. Adley, Mike Lynch, and Luke Forshaw about the possibilities of what was going to be considered and what would the district think about some of these changes if they were required. We don't know the answers to those yet. We're waiting for that. We're going to hear back from the architect and the construction manager next week. But in the meantime, we're obviously looking at all possibilities to bring the project down to where we thought it would be. I proposed a number of different changes, one of which was considering taking the early learning program and putting it elsewhere, because we have a very difficult site, and trying to cram all of this 100,000 square feet onto this empty space is becoming very tough. And that was very apparent when we saw the costs of the site work. which was approximately $9 million as against a $4 million original budget. We had to move 30,000 cubic yards of earth out and then back. So that's all because of the topography. It's all because of the difficulty of the site. Maybe they can come back and with all of the changes, come back with a number which is close to where we want to be, and we'll see what happens. But right now, we're in sort of a holding pattern, waiting for the information to come back.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. You know, we've talked about a number of times how building processes over time have evolved in the town, and certainly by no fault of anyone in our community, the state requires a certain process in order to sort of get in the queue for getting reimbursements, right? And I think it required us going for an appropriation before we really had enough information, detailed information, even a real design concept. So some of this, I probably would say, is likely to be expected. You know, we developed a new process with the town garage that I think we all stand behind in terms of getting to a place where we get detailed cost estimates and then we go to the RTM for an appropriation, but we're not able to do that in this case. So I'm sure that the work will get done. We have Dr. Adley and Chairman Ackman and Mike Lynch here tonight. So I'm sure there'll be, once you get the numbers back from the, what did you call it?
From SLAM and from O&G.
Your cost management process that's going on right now.
Yes.
Some might know that as value engineering or
We don't
whatever,
call it
whatever
that.
the nomenclature is.
Not yet.
And then I'm sure there'll be a dialogue with the Board of Education and the administration to talk about any changes to the programming. And that certainly is not in the purview of the building committee at all. I know your great desire is to whittle those costs down to as close to the $63 million as possible, but it will ultimately be the board and the administration that will make those decisions. That will
And a lot of
impact
it
the
will
budget.
be looking at what are the proposed changes, and
Right.
do they make sense, and do they maintain the quality that you're looking for in a building?
Correct.
And a lot of that's very specialized, and we thank God we have some people on our committee that understand all this and can make value judgments about that, or can at least give their point of view on it.
So I know that the timing of this project is very important, and time is of the essence, so that you can get shovels in the ground and get the kids into school when they need to be in school. So can you talk a little bit to us about what the timing needs to be while we're in this interim process? When do decisions have to be made?
Yesterday, frankly, we're trying to make, we've talked with the architect about compressing some of their times in terms of design development and all the other things. We think we can do that, but right now, but essentially, we should have been done with schematic design right at this point. We should be moving on to design development, which is our next phase, which is, I think, expected to be done somewhere in March. We obviously are going to be a couple weeks behind, and we're going to try to pick up that time somehow. But it really depends upon what comes back and what we all, look at that point and say, well, wait a minute, what have we got here?
Yep.
You know, do we have a viable project that can pass muster with both the Board of Education and the RTM? Or do we have something that we've got to rejuggle and refigure, in which case that might take a little longer? It may not.
Okay.
Okay.
Board questions?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for the update.
I know.
Good news travels fast.
I know there'll be more to come. There'll be more to come.
Yep.
Okay. First Selectmen's report, short tonight. Just a recommendation that everybody either attend or tune in to next Monday's State of the Town addresses. Always very informative. And if you haven't seen them, I know that Ed has presented the Norotan Heights train station redevelopment renderings, and I think they've been hanging up at the train station for a while. But for anyone listening, if you're interested in the proposed new design of the Norotan Heights train station, I'll make sure that we get those boards and have them at the RTM meeting on Monday so everybody can see them. And move on to Kate.
Just a public service announcement tonight. The time to renew your parking permits is running out very quickly. The drop dead date is December 17th. And I guess I have a reputation for being mean because I don't, if you're late, that's it, you're done. So December 17th.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to new business, discuss and take action on a property easement for our sewer system. We have Director Ed Gentile and Assistant Director Darren Austafine here this evening. Good evening, Darren.
Hi, Darren Austafine, Assistant Director. With me is Ed Gentile, the Director. We're here tonight to ask for approval of the resolution prepared by Town Council to authorize First Selectmen to enter into the easement agreements relative to the sewer project that we're working on. We're going to go into some background.
Yes, please.
Couple of moving parts. I'll try and be concise. We have a sewer pump station on Seagate Road. We have a control area with a generator for that pump station on YMCA property. They are connected through two properties, the YMCA property and 8 Seagate Road. We also are going to move the source of power from Seagate Road through the YMCA property. And along with that, the owner of the property on Seagate Road has requested that we extinguish the easement through the center of his property and move it to the side of his property. And in order for us to do that, we also had to extinguish a very small 10-foot by 10-foot easement and take another 10-foot by 10-foot easement on the YMCA property. And that allows the new easement to line up correctly with our control area. And the Eversource Energy Company is in favor of and pushing this along so that they can remove the power source from Seagate Road, which is not as good as the one that comes in through the YMCA. I have a board if anybody
Yep.
is.
Was everybody able to read the maps?
No, I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
I do have a question on the maps. The
I took-
YMCA property.
Okay,
Cul-de-sac, sorry.
This is the new easement?
Yeah.
This is the old easement, right?
no,
Okay, this is the new easement, this is the old easement.
no.
All right, can you just show us on your map?
Let me try it.
Then why does it say proposed easement?
Okay,
And this
that's
will
a
go away.
fair question. What I've done here is I've taken this lower map is the map of the property on Seagate Road. Here's Seagate Road. This is the property of 8 Seagate Road. There's their main residence, there's their garage. And the existing easement runs right through the center of their property, and they want to move it to the edge, okay?
No problem.
Okay, now, up here, this is the YMCA property.
Yep.
And the existing easement lines up perfectly with the existing easement on 8 Seagate. And the proposed easement lines up perfectly with the proposed easement on 8 Seagate. This little bump out area here is where all the stuff happens. We have a new generator there, we have a propane tank. And now we're going to take the easements that you were looking at. This is our easement to get to our station, which is just paper for us to have the legal right to get there. We obviously don't drive across their grass, we take the parking lot. And the other easement that you see here cross-hatched is actually an easement which is going to be in favor of the Eversource Energy Company so that they can get new power to the YMCA, hit a transformer, and then come off of that to give us power instead of us getting our power from Seagate Road.
So it's above ground wire?
No,
It's a buried wire?
everything will be buried in conduits,
Okay,
correct?
so that's why we have the new easement. Well,
Yeah, we'd still need an easement, you're right.
right, power easement, okay. I understand.
Any questions?
Any questions?
And this is all documented and will be archived everywhere, so we all know where this all is?
Yes, actually, this map has already been recorded, it's in the land records,
Okay.
and as soon as we record this one,
Right.
we'll take the number and insert it into the easement document, and all the easement documents have been reviewed by town council. I believe in your packet, there's also a
Yeah, it's all right here.
Okay.
yeah,
Yep.
certificate of corporate resolution where the YMCA board considered and agreed and gave
Right, and
permission.
and the why was all, okay.
They're on board.
And why did this take so long for the Y to get on board?
There's a lot of moving parts. There's, first, they had a changing of the guard, and their board changed. And then their bank's lawyer became involved, and he's not local. And it took them an extraordinary amount of time to track him down, and they finally got it done. I mean, it was a constant, we never let up on it throughout. But you're right, it was over a year to get this done.
Because the guy in Seagate agreed a long time ago.
Yes, they did. You're absolutely correct.
Okay.
And then, I'm sorry, so 9 Seagate has
Eight.
nothing, no, number 9, now it's moving closer to 9, there's no issue whatsoever with 9 Seagate?
Easements
left or right?
essentially on their property line.
Yeah, that's, I just want to,
Left, this one?
Yeah.
correct.
Nothing to do with it. The
Okay,
property
there.
line is here, and the entire easement is on the property of
Okay,
number 8.
just wanted to clarify, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Darren?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
So
you.
we have a resolution before us, the resolution of the Board of Selectmen of the Town of Darien accepting an easement over and abandoning an easement over property located at 8 Seagate Road and 2420 Boston Post Road, Darien. With your concurrence to waive the reading of this resolution, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Concur?
Okay. Kip, may I have a second? Krista? All those in favor? Great. Thank you very much. You're all set?
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Darren. Thank you. And Ed? All right. Also, with your permission, we will take items 7B and C together. And we have been asked by the Board of Education to convene, to have the Board of Education serve as the building committee for 2 projects. One is for the roof replacement at Hindley Elementary School, and the other is for roof and skylight replacement at Holmes Elementary School. I believe that the Hindley project was put forward in the Board of Education budget last year, and the Holmes project in the year prior. Is that right, Kate?
It was part of their proposal for the fiscal 18-19 budget, but the Board of Finance took it out of the budget and had a separate resolution for it to be bonded. So it actually happened in fiscal 18, in June of 18.
Okay.
We need to do it. Yeah, we need to do it.
Now we need to actually go spend some money.
Okay. You might recall that, well, maybe you don't, new members. The Board of Selectmen, previous Board of Selectmen sort of set a cap at a project being $1 million or more, that we would seat a formal building committee for it, but I think that the district is well-equipped to handle roof replacements and to have the Board of Education act as the building committee. We have 2 separate resolutions here. The one thing that I would like to ask is that for sort of reporting and liaison purposes, I would like the Board of Education to name a chairman and vice chairman for these building committee projects. It could be the same individual for both of the projects, just so that we can have the right channels of communication, if that.
Yeah, I think Mike plans, as we've done in the past with projects of this magnitude, of him running them through his office. So we could certainly have Mike come back and update you
Yep.
on where he is. Different than like the cafeteria building committee. which actually all 9 members sat on. This would probably run through Mike Lynch and his department
Sure.
with board oversight. But
Mike, I think we're happy to provide updates back to the Board of Selectmen.
Sure.
Yeah.
would that suffice?
No, I would like that, but because you're acting as a building committee, I'd also like to request that you name someone on your board to, they can talk to Mike and just, be the person that's really understanding the scheduling of the projects and the pacing, et cetera.
Okay, sure, we'll work on that.
Yeah, if you'd like to,
Can I?
yes, if you, please, yeah.
The resolution for naming the board as the building committee?
Yep.
It's required for us to go get our state funding, the grant funding.
Correct.
The resolution, does it state, because it should, that you guys are authorizing the Board of Ed to go after the grant? Okay, so it's all in the resolution?
It's all in there. We just
Okay.
we had added that you would select from the board membership a chairman, vice chairman, and secretary.
Okay.
That's
So
all.
we'll have all the stuff we need to go for
That's
the
great.
grant?
Knowing full well that you will be running that through your department, we
Yes.
understand that, as we would. It's just to have some, as we would with all building projects, we have some people designated as the point people, if you will, from the board itself, not from the staff. Staff is typically ex officio on building committee projects, so trying to tie up a process here.
The resolution was based on the Oxbridge resolution, so all that grant stuff is in there.
Perfect.
When I put it together, I did have it that, similar to the cafeteria building committee, that a member of the Board of Finance
That was my
be
question.
appointed to the building committee. I don't know if you want to take that out.
Thoughts?
If the funding's already approved, then maybe not, but I am newer to this.
What's the number?
The Hindley
It's
roof is $550,000?
$550 for Hindley and just over $1 million for Holmes.
Yeah, so Hindley
Yeah.
wouldn't have.
Would
a
you like to
building-
come up to the podium,
Yeah.
please? Thank you, Tara.
Sorry. So Hindley wouldn't need a building committee at the $500,000 level. It's the Holmes, I'm sorry, somehow FaceTime is going. It's the Holmes project that, Kate, if you keep me honest, it's with the addition of the skylight, it just breaches the $1 million.
$1,004,000.
All right, so maybe more than just
Yeah,
breaches,
just,
sorry.
well, no, I consider that just breaching it, so.
Yeah, so, I'm always happy to work with the Board of Finance. I'm just not really sure what this person would really be doing. Mike's gonna run it with his guys, and it's really only Holmes, the roof. I mean, if guys were so inclined, we're always happy to work, but I just don't know that that person's going to have much function, to tell you the truth. But if you're so inclined, this isn't going to have, I'd say, like regular meetings like you saw
Right.
with it. And Mike's done a lot of these projects, and the state just requires that we come and we ask you for it, and it does at $1.4 million just go over. But then it would only be for homes, and it would only be if we're bundling both the roof and the skylight.
Mhm.
I'm trying to read the logistics of the Board of Finance being part of this process. Not that I don't value their input, but how they would.
I don't have any problem waiving the requirement to have a Board of Finance member with a project like this. And again, it's very, very different than other projects that are, I'm hoping, different than other projects that might be subject to cost overruns. That would be a, larger town concern. I'm not worried about that necessarily with these projects. So I'd be happy to, and I know that Mike will keep everyone updated. We'll keep Jen updated and Kate.
I mean, we do have in the resolution for homes that the progress and item number 8 to have updates to the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Finance, so we kind of have that built in, that
Yep.
if need be,
Yeah.
we need,
Yep.
if a report needed to be, if anyone requested it,
Yep.
so.
And again, that's one of the reasons why I'd like to have a chairman and a vice chairman named, so that if those updates have to be given, that there's board members that come with Mike to make those presentations. I think it's just a difficult process when it's always staff and not, the board who's asking for the project.
No, I would agree, absolutely.
So if everyone's in agreement, we will delete from item 1 the need to seat a member of the Board of Finance for both of these roof projects.
Should we vote to?
Yes. I'll entertain a motion to approve that edit.
From,
Krista, seconded by David.
oh,
I'm sorry,
okay, I got it. Is
Do
that-
them both at one time?
Yes. So I'll entertain a motion to amend the resolution for the Hindley Elementary School roof replacement and the Holmes Elementary School roof and skylight replacement to eliminate the need to seat a member of the Board of Finance on the building committee.
What about secretary?
We can also delete the need for a secretary, if everyone concurs.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay, so I think I had Krista move. May I have a second? David seconds. Any further conversation? All those in favor on the edit? Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Okay,
now we have to
we have to,
Yep,
one more vote.
That's just to approve
That's just the edit.
Just the edit.
Is there any further discussion on the concept of the Board of Ed acting as the building committee for both of these projects?
I just had a question on the wording of May.
Okay?
The short form says, at least through schematic design drawings, and this talks about schematic design, construction documents, everything. Is there a reason for the difference?
The reason for the difference, I just basically took the Ox Ridge resolution
happy
and
with-
deleted some things that were clearly not
Right.
necessary for this.
Okay, are you happy with the fact that you're going to go through schematic drawings, design development drawings, and construction documents?
Yes, I support that. Yes.
Fine,
So this is the one as it stands?
yeah.
Yes.
This one, okay.
Okay,
yep.
good.
As it's presented.
Yeah,
Fine.
that's,
We need a finished roof. We appreciate all the way through.
Okay.
Can I just
so-
ask one question?
Yes, of
I mean,
course.
I don't remember exactly which schools, but there were certain schools that where the roof was not going to be sufficient to support any installation of solar. Are these two schools that are involved there? Will this resolve that problem for one or either? Or?
These were both roofs due to repair, so we had said we would not put solar on top of them and then have to rip the solar up to do it.
Okay, so
this
but
creates
after
the possibility.
after the repair, it makes it possible.
It makes it possible, yes.
Okay.
Has there been any discussion about solar on either one of these buildings?
Mike, do you want to talk about which, because we did discuss solar last year. I just want you to keep me on aware of that.
We did talk about solar at Holmes
Okay.
and the central office building. The central office building roof is completed except the skylight has been back ordered, but everything else, the masonry restoration, the windows, the roofing, that's the gutters, that's all done.
Great.
So that was one of the buildings. Holmes was the other building, and Tokenique was the third building that we discussed with the company the town was using.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, then we'll vote on these separately since they're separate resolutions. Resolution to authorize the Board of Education to serve as the building committee for the Hindley Elementary School roof replacement building project.
So moved?
Kit moves. May I have a second? Sarah seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Terrific. And then entertain a motion to approve the Board of Education to serve as the building committee for the Holmes Elementary School roof and skylight replacement project.
So moved? What-
Krista moves, Kip seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Great. Okay, you're all set. Thank you. Thank you.
What's that?
Do you have a lot of snow where you're going?
Over one.
Thank you very much for coming.
all right, stay home.
It's okay.
Okay,
Better be safe.
yep. All right, moving on to appointments. We have three reappointments this evening. We have Laura Hyatt to the Youth Commission for a term expiring on March 31st, 2020, and a subsequent term, since that's only a few months away, that expires on March 31st, 2023. May I have a motion to approve Laura's reappointment? Sarah moves. May I have a second? Krista seconds. All those in favor? Great. We have a reappointment of Elizabeth Geiger to the Architectural Review Board for a term expiring on June 30th, 2023. I'll entertain a motion to approve. Krista moves. May I have a second? Sarah seconds. All those in favor? Great. And the reappointment of Robert Hill to the Sewer Commission for a term expiring on December 31st, 2022. Motion, Kip moves, seconded by David. All those in favor? Great, thank you. We have meeting minutes of November 12th. And you'll see, right? we- Yeah.
Yes.
I have an
Action ones,
opinion.
yes.
Yeah. I actually prefer the original minutes myself. And maybe it's just that I've gotten accustomed to having some detail, like topical detail. For example, during public comment, Jim Cameron came and he spoke. And in the action minutes, it just says that he spoke. It doesn't say that he spoke about, emails and phone numbers. I do appreciate that Kate has done what I think is a really good job of limiting the amount of information in the minutes. This is a dramatic improvement over what it used to be a number of administrations ago. But I want to hear from everybody else if you, at least if these meeting minutes give you kind of a summary of the discussions. Otherwise, you really do have to go back and watch TV 79. And TV 79 is not a legal documentation of our meeting. It's a convenience. It's not a legal medium, if you will. So, anybody else have thoughts?
You might guess that I'm not in favor of the super abbreviated approach for just the reasons you mentioned.
Okay.
And I
thought I'd be outnumbered 4-1.
I keep the minutes to go back to say, well, now wait a minute, what was that all about? And without some discussion, I'm left a little bit in a quandary as to, your point about what Jim Cameron talked about, it's exactly to the point. And even the lead up to the minute, the motion that he asked for in terms of payment of the camera guys, that was just.
That was that meeting, yeah.
That was that meeting, right? It's more helpful when there's a little bit more flavor around it. I don't know, that's how I feel.
Okay.
And we make, at the building committee, we try to make our minutes very short, usually a page and a half or a page and a quarter, or maybe less. But still, we try to cover what was the essence of what was discussed.
Right.
And I try to tie that with the agenda.
I did have a question, though. Do we really have to put in the minutes the amendments to the minutes?
Wait, where are we?
In the section that says minutes, whenever we have changes to the previous minutes.
Oh, right.
Following direction.
I think if you're voting on an amendment to it.
Yeah, we do approve the meeting minutes as amended. So would it be possible to just say, special meeting of October 28th were approved as amended?
I think so, but I'll verify that.
Okay. It seems extraneous. I would never go back and necessarily look at that, but if somebody feels as though they
What
might.
changes, yeah.
No,
Yeah.
because you just approved the amended minutes. You don't need to.
Right.
Yeah, and we go back in the office and fix we put in whatever the amendments were.
Right.
Only if there's a really substantive change that you want to,
Right.
make a note of it. My question was, what are the double asterisks next to each of the motions? What's that for? Oh, okay.
Don't know.
Okay.
It's the way it goes.
I don't know. I just merely asked what they were.
Actually, I find them to be a pain in the neck because trying to line everything up with those asterisks, it doesn't work nicely.
Why do it?
So, I do think there's things that we could do here. If you're looking to cut down on the length of the minutes, like in the move, looking at A, the appointment of William Wright to the EPC. It
Yes.
says for a term expiring on 6/30/2021, and then you repeat that.
Yes, we could, instead of having the,
Rewording it.
You could
Right,
have
we have this- we
Ms.
have this-
McNamara moved, Ms. Newman seconded, motion passed unanimously.
right, we could eliminate the extra verbiage, because it's already there as part of the agenda item.
I
Yeah.
would think so.
Yep, okay.
And I think because you're capitalizing and bolding,
That's
I don't
enough.
know that you would need the,
You could probably get rid of the asterisk, but save
That might make it-
formatting
Yeah.
headache.
As long as there's a
I think
way,
it's-
as long as there's a way for
it's
us
all in the
to,
details,
I
right?
think it's a 9-0.
I mean,
maybe there's a way to visually,
If you really care within Word, there's a function for bullet pointing.
Yeah, I know. Or I could just indent them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can make sure that they stand out.
okay.
Yeah.
good
Right, we just
suggestion,
need to
Kip.
know who moved, who seconded in the vote.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. Okay.
I think because the meetings are not typically 4-hour meetings, I think it does make sense to have the detail of the discussions. I think it makes sense when the Board of Ed has the shorter ones because they have such lengthy meetings and
I would agree.
discussions.
Yeah. I would agree.
That's okay.
Yeah, as long as, of course, my concern is that it's an interpretation of what was said, and then we can always clarify that when we approve them, but to keep to the facts and the least amount of sort of discussion, that's where
Yeah.
I always
Yeah.
just get worried, but,
Yeah, that's one
Subjective.
reason why I try and keep them brief.
yeah.
And when I have doubts, I go back and look at the video
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that I've got it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I agree with that comment. Okay, then I think I'm hearing a consensus that we would like to stick with certain modifications that we just suggested. We'd like to stick with the meeting minutes as you've been preparing them.
Sounds good?
Okay?
Thank you, Kate.
All right, so having decided that then, we have the regular meeting minutes of November 12th to look at.
In the first paragraph from talking about Jim Cameron,
Mm-hmm.
the second to the last line, he hoped that, should be he hoped.
Yes.
Oh, didn't catch that one.
Kip, wow.
Didn't catch that one. We got a new sleuth here.
It won't happen very often, trust me.
Any other corrections or additions to these minutes?
No.
If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve as amended.
So moved.
Kip moves. We have a second. Sarah seconds. All those in favor? Okay, thank you. And then we have the special meeting minutes of November 12th. Motion to approve.
Oh, so moved.
Kip moves. Sarah seconds. All those in favor? Thank you. And then we have regular meeting minutes of November 18th.
Okay. I have a few corrections.
Okay?
Oh, good.
On the front page, under presentation from members of the depot, the line that begins with sad,
Mhm.
take out the word "and" at the end.
Yeah.
And please add your semicolons after the third line, Girls Night Out, after Emily Kirby, and on the fifth line after Tyler O'Brien.
Yep, okay.
Okay, and just sort of consistency. On the next page, this is just a question. You refer to the Pear Tree Project. Did you want to say Pear Tree Point Beach Project? Sometimes you say this way, that way, I don't know.
Yes, I would say that would be a
'Cause
smart articulation.
If that's the case, then I'd say it there under First Selectman's report.
Mhm.
And then I would say it again over on the appointment C. And then finally, in the paragraph of the large lettering of the, where it says, appointment of Pear Tree Point Beach. And the only other issue I had was on page 2, under Town Administrator's Report, under the second line, it should be, but the hot weather has not been helpful.
Yep, yeah.
Okay. And, okay. We didn't talk about that, but point of personal privilege, to let you know that that issue is going before planning and zoning tomorrow evening to get an extension on our special permit to do the construction for Highland Farms in the spring.
We have until March 31st under the special permit.
Oh,
Yeah.
you need extension, obviously.
Yeah, I think we'll need an extension.
You
Yep.
you can't
Good
count on
point.
March 31st being a start date.
Right.
No.
Got it.
That's a good point. Good catch.
Okay, if there's no further corrections, motion to approve as amended. Sarah moves, second. Krista, all those in favor? Great. And then our special meeting of November 18th.
The only thing I would say is that we seem to be either using Ms. or Mrs.
Oh, yeah, I had that question.
Do we want to?
How do you want to be
Ms.
known?
Or Mrs.?
Ms.,
Ms.?
Mrs.
that's
fine
my
with me too.
personal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can be consistent across the board.
Yep. Perfect.
Okay.
All right, motion to approve?
I'm sorry, just have one other
Yeah.
question on the special meeting, which was obviously executive session. I just haven't seen, and is it customary to list everyone in attendance?
Following the template that has been used in the past
Okay.
is that we always listed, not like your interviewees with the personnel, but when we bring in other people besides the board.
Like Tony
Acknowledging
Honeyke
the fact
or
that,
Wayne
that
Phelps.
like I was in the meeting.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm not sure that it's legally required, but I think it's good to know what staff or outside counsel is involved.
Okay, entertain a motion to approve the special meeting minutes.
So moved.
Kip moves. Sarah seconds. All those in favor? Great, okay. We have no public here, so we'll move right on to public comment. And agenda review. Everybody good so far?
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Then I will entertain a motion to adjourn. David moves, Sarah seconds. All those in favor? Great, thank you.